Tell Me More podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. I am joined today by an incredible young woman who has been through more than most people can comprehend. Kellie Finlayson was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer when she was just 25 years old, with a baby daughter and a partner she planned to marry. Kellie's diagnosis completely changed her life, but she refuses to let it stop her from making the most of it. In this conversation, Kellie shares how she chooses to remain positive and use her experience to shed light on bowel cancer. My name is Olivia Molly Rogers, and I'm excited to get comfortable in the uncomfortable with you and remind you that nobody is perfect and everybody has something going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Kellie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I am very excited to chat to you. I think first off, I'd really love to know what your life was like prior to everything that's happened over the past couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. So I have always been the most confident, outspoken, outgoing person you probably would ever meet. Never lacked confidence, that's for sure. So 20s was obviously university, probably not not obviously, because not many people actually do go to uni and don't choose that path anymore, which is cool for them. But it was the best thing that I could do. I studied teaching. I was the life of the classroom. I'm not much of a partier, but you wouldn't know that if I'm at the party, if that makes sense. I'm not drunk, but I seem it. So I've always been that type of person.
Yeah.
Traveled Europe, worked in Norway for 18 months. I was just really living my best life in my early 20s, which was great.
Yeah. Awesome.
To be fair, very privileged position that I was in. I was very lucky and worked really hard to do the things that I really wanted to do. And I had the priorities that probably most young 20-year-olds had, which was traveling or spending time with friends and doing the things that young 20-year-olds do, which was fun. I think I had a really fun young 20s.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you met your now husband around that time?
I did. I met him when I was 21, but did travel to Europe ended up being 18 months after meeting him, and then we rekindled when I got back.
Nice.
So yeah,
so
which was
nice.
cool.
And then a big, enormous spanner was thrown in the works when you got your first diagnosis. Can you tell me about that?
Well, even before my diagnosis, I had Sophia. So I guess that was a big life-changing moment already. So 2021 was a big year in my life. But 18 months prior to that even, I was having issues with my bowels. I was having irregular stools and either going a lot or not at all, and did go to a doctor and got booked for a colonoscopy, but it got cancelled for COVID. Elective procedures were just not, I guess, important. And at the time I agreed and was save someone's life, essentially, use your doctors wisely. So I guess that's probably a big thing to remember when we're talking about the then diagnosis, which happened to be quite quickly stage 4.
Yeah.
Because I did have 18 months that I guess I was not neglected, because I happily gave up my spot, but it could have been caught a lot earlier.
Yeah, but it's not your responsibility.
No, it's not. It's not. But at the same time, they didn't know better either. And COVID was a big, scary thing. So
was that 2020 then?
Yeah. So March 2020, I got postponed. Well, they postponed it. And then once they told me they had a space for me, I was pregnant, so I couldn't have a colonoscopy anyway. So yeah. So that's a big 18 months that I guess nothing... I didn't know of anything that was going on, but I was having common symptoms of bowel cancer, but was put down to pregnancy or postpartum, and all of the other things that women go through, your period, for example, is so similar to having bowel cancer symptoms, which is annoying. But
it is annoying.
Yeah.
And I also read that you thought that maybe it was an intolerance to food, or which is also super common.
Yeah. Well, even at the time, it was kind of cool to be gluten intolerant or lactose intolerant. It was alternate thing to have. Yeah, and doctors definitely perceived it that way as well, because when I did present with symptoms, they were like, oh, here's another one sort of thing, which sucks in hindsight. But I also definitely thought that I was intolerant. So I was like, oh, yeah, it is just my mind playing games with me or whatever. And I just cut it out. And to be fair, it did reduce some of the symptoms that I was having. So I was like, oh, it must be it.
Yeah.
But pregnancy also took away all of my symptoms, or masked them at least. So yeah, like there's so many things that I went through that were masking everything that I was actually going through.
So how did you then, once you had Sophia, how did you then sort of go back to the doctor, and like what made you go back and get diagnosed?
So, well, I was a little bit naughty actually. Before you leave the hospital after having especially a vaginal birth, you need to go to the toilet, and on day 2 I lied and said that I'd gone to the toilet so they would let me go home, and then 10 days later I still hadn't gone to the toilet, and yeah, so and I was like, oh, it's just normal, it's pregnancy, but I was just terrified to go. Like, you think everything's gonna fall out, like it's the craziest feeling in the world. And yeah, after 10 days I was like, I need every sign, like stool softener, laxative, like anything I can possibly get, like get this out of me. Like I was so bloated and it was painful. Like you can imagine, like even not going for a day, like it's painful. And then I couldn't physically get the stool out. Like obviously unbeknown to me, like there was a 8 centimeter tumor, which is the same, or 2 centimeters smaller in diameter than what my child's head was.
Wow.
So like, yeah, like big.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't pass the stool, and I had to sit in the shower, which it sounds disgusting, but like I was sat in the shower, like bent over and just like hoping anything would come out. Like I couldn't possibly move off the shower floor. And at this time I had a 10-day-old baby that was like completely dependent on me, but I had to express before taking the laxatives, because then I couldn't breastfeed her after taking them, because otherwise she would have diarrhea. Like it was a whole big thing, but ended up passing a stool. And then within the next, maybe I want to say 2 months, I just had like the urge to go all the time, and I thought it was just a symptom of pregnancy or postpartum. Like the 4th trimester is huge, and like not many people talk about it, not enough people talk about it, but it's a big thing. Like it's a massive change. And I had all the symptoms, like the fatigue, the abdominal pains, the infrequent bowels. Like I had all of the symptoms, but they were also symptoms of being postpartum.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
was there any moment where you thought that maybe it could be bowel cancer, or you?
No, I didn't even know bowel cancer was a thing.
Yeah, wow.
Like no one talks about it.
And how you were so young as well.
I was 25. Yeah, so I'd never talked to anyone about it. I'd never heard about it. It wasn't a thing. Like I'd heard of Crohn's, which is obviously a pretty significant chronic bowel disease.
Yeah.
And I thought I considered it being that, and did a lot of research actually on that. And I'm honestly glad it wasn't, because that is hectic to have, and it takes over your life just as much as cancer does. And at least people understand that cancer's bad. People don't understand that Crohn's is bad. So like I'm taking it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I went to the doctors because I had blood in my stool, and Jeremy, my husband now, made a joke about needing to have a portaloo on the back of the car, because I always needed to pull over to go to the toilet. So that's how I went to the doctors. And then within 4 days of seeing her, I was sitting in a surgeon's office because I found out I had cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that moment. Can you? So you're sitting there, you're 25 years old, you have a 3-month-old?
Yeah, she was just gone 3 months.
Can you talk me through that moment?
It's hard, because like obviously like it's a big life-changing sentence to come out of someone's mouth, but the way that it was delivered, I guess because he does it every day, hopefully not with that diagnosis, but he speaks to patients after a colonoscopy every day. He just turned a piece of paper around and was like, this is what bowel cancer looks like. And I was like, yeah, okay, so what's mine look like? And he's like, this is your imagery. I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, what's bowel cancer? Sort of thing. I didn't understand. Like, I don't even know what you're saying. I was like, no, I don't have any lumps in my breasts, or like, I don't have any like weird skin, more like, whatever. And he was just like, no, like there's a tumor in your colon, in your rectum. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, this is why your bowel prep wouldn't work. So you done a colonoscopy, you know what bowel prep's like. You quite literally sat on the toilet pissing out of your bum.
Yeah.
Right?
It's foul.
It's the worst thing you could possibly do. But
yours didn't work.
It came back up. I couldn't pass it. So I was like, everyone tells me that I'd be running to the toilet.
Well, like you were throwing up?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I had no urge to go to the toilet. Like I'd sit on the toilet and like I was like, there's no urge to go. Yeah. So I was like, I had actually rang them before I went. I was like, it's not working. Like my bowel prep's failed. Like, do you want me to try again another day? Because I know how important it is to be clear. And they were like, no, like come in, like you've tried. Clearly something's wrong, sort of thing. He said he could get 10 centimeters like this far with his scope before he just had to pull it back out and stop.
Because the tumour was in the way.
Yeah, he couldn't pass it past. Like he would not pass past. So, but yeah, so obviously it was like to the extent that it was quite advanced. I didn't think anything of it because I didn't think at all. Like I wish that I had a moment that I was just like grieving or like a why me moment, but I honestly didn't. Like I didn't understand it. So everyone around me was having this like, holy shit, she's going to die. Because essentially when you're that young, you think you link cancer to death. Like that's, it's just what people link it to. And I didn't think that once.
Really?
No, not once.
I wonder if it was like some sort of subconscious coping mechanism.
Well, probably. I think I was in a lot of denial, and I think that's probably the healthiest thing that I could have done for myself was be in denial, like not accept anything until I'm told that's what it is. Or like, for example, people would ask me what my prognosis is, which is virtually how long you have. And I never knew it. I was filling out paperwork one day and that has like prognosis. I rang my colorectal surgeon. This was like 18 months later. I was like, what's my prognosis? What does that mean? Because I know what diagnosis meant. And he was like, oh, that's like the statistics of how many months you'd have left sort of thing. And I was like, oh, I was like, you never gave me that. And he's like, because I always believed you'd get through it. Like I never thought that you would need a prognosis. And I was like, oh, okay. So what do I write down? And he's like, well, statistically, you've already outlived the prognosis. So like, I don't know what to tell you sort of thing. But yeah, so I'd never, until told otherwise, I would never fall into that depth, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through what happened then after you were told you had bowel cancer?
Yeah. So I walked straight out of the surgeon's office. He's not a surgeon, he's a gastroenterologist, with my cannula still in my arm and just walked out. The nurse still was holding my 3-month-old baby because Jeremy was like, what the fuck is going on? And I just walked out and she's like, you've still got your cannula. I was like, I'll take it out later. Like, I'll come back tomorrow, whatever. But like, just don't touch me sort of thing. She ended up getting me in the car park, which was obviously lucky because I didn't have to see her again the next day. Yeah. But yeah, I was just like in complete denial. Like Jeremy was ringing everyone that needed to be rang to tell about like what's just happened. And I was lucky I was met at home. 2 of my best friends were there as I pulled up home. And I was like, why are you here? And they're like, well, so that you can cry. And I was like, cry about what? Like, what are we crying about? Like, I'm so confused. And they were like, oh, like to help with Sophia. Like, you need to like look after yourself. And I was like, Sophia's my baby. Like, don't touch her sort of thing. Like, I can do this. Like, I've done it for 3 months. Like, I don't need help. Like, I don't understand. Like, why does everyone want to help? All I did was wake up. Like, I had no comprehension of, I guess, what was about to happen. But having these 2 girls that were quite medically inclined, they knew what was about to happen. So I was like, why is everyone fussing? Like, I just have to see a doctor tomorrow. Like, it was so frustrating. And knowing that my mum was on the next flight the next morning, I was like, why? Like, I've got Sophia. I don't need help. Like, I'm so confused. But yeah, obviously they all knew more than I did. And one of my friends read the paperwork and she knew obviously the extent of the disease, and like even looking at the images you could see it, but like to me I had no idea. So I was just like, oh yeah, I'll go in, I'll have chemo, I'll get it removed, I'll be good. Like I was like, that's what happens when you get cancer, right? Like, no. Clearly not, but like at the time that's all I knew.
How did Jeremy take it?
Another thing, like people would obviously think that he would have spiraled, but I guess he took it under his wing as if he spoke about it, then it was real. So it wasn't spoken about at home at all. Like not once in the first 12 months of my diagnosis.
Really?
Like, yeah, I'm in my 3rd year now and it's spoken about a lot more now because I don't have the help. I choose to do it myself sort of thing. But yeah, he didn't or if he did, he didn't show me the emotions that he had, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. So he's being strong for you.
He was. And like he has spoken about it before with a couple of people like on a podcast, and he said that he would just go to the club and cry. And like I didn't see that, and I didn't hear that until I was out of it. So I didn't know. And I am grateful for that. But yeah, like I wish that I could have been there for him more, but then at the same time I didn't have any time or energy to be there for him.
Yeah.
Like I was already, So like in hindsight, it all worked out for the best. But yeah, like obviously he was struggling more than he let on.
Yeah.
But I think we all do that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, obviously I've never been through that.
No, but everyone's got.
But when you're going through a difficult time, I think a lot of it is just like you just get through it in any way that you know how. And then it's easy to see things in hindsight. But yeah.
Like you don't want to be a burden to the people that want to help you.
Yeah.
You'd almost rather be a nuisance to the people that don't really care, or like put yourself in a position to like let the medical team be the people that are looking after you because they're paid to do so.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
So you had to go through chemo.
Yeah. So I started chemo and radiotherapy on my 26th birthday.
Surgery? Did you have surgery?
Not immediately because it was so far progressed. So I actually had a stoma first because I couldn't pass stool, so I was internally getting sepsis.
Oh my God.
Which I also didn't know was a thing.
Can you explain what a stoma is? Because I feel like a lot of people don't actually know.
I know. So the common misconception is that it's a hose put into your bowel and like comes out of your stomach. And my dad still till like 6 months ago thought that's what it was. But it is essentially your large, so a colostomy is your large intestines pulled to your stomach. Like your stomach's just cut open and it's like folded. So like if your intestines are tube, it's like cut horizontally. Yeah, horizontally, and then like split and sewed to your stomach.
Wow.
So that's where the opening is. And stoma is just the stoma bag is just a bag that catches the stool that then comes out of your stoma. And then an ileostomy, which I also had later, is from your small intestines. So the colostomy is like a formed stool almost about to ready to go out, and the ileostomy is just liquid. Essentially, it doesn't even make it through your colon. So yeah. But yeah, it's just like an opening of your actual intestines stitched to your stomach. Which sounds disgusting, and I was quite disturbed when they showed me the pictures of what one could look like, but mine was actually a cute little button. You couldn't even, it looked like a little bum hole, like quite literally was, but like some of them are quite long and yeah. So yeah, that's what a stoma is, and that's what I had to have before anything even started. So the first question I actually asked them was like, okay, so when do I freeze my eggs? Because that's also what you think of when you hear of a cancer diagnosis is infertility. And my surgeon said, would you prefer to be here for your daughter that you've got now, or would you prefer to potentially not be here but have eggs that frozen, and that Jeremy can then obviously turn into embryos for a future relationship or whatever it may be, do you know what I mean, or a surrogate, or so that she has full whole siblings. And I was like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's only 2 weeks. And he goes, it's 2 weeks you don't have, sweetie. Like, oh God. Yeah. So that obviously that those words, like the 2 weeks you don't have, was like, oh, this is serious. Like, we actually have to do something here. So that was my fertility virtually taken from me, which was the hardest thing to get through for the first 12 months, which I don't think people considered when speaking to me, especially in that first diagnosis. It was always like, you'll get through it. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'll get through it. I know I will. I was very determined to do so. But when I finish, these things have already been taken. Yeah. Like, I don't have the option to then start again. Like, I don't have that option. Like, this has been taken here and now. I haven't even started. I hadn't had a surgery, and that's gone. Yeah. It does make sense. It would have been so difficult. Yeah. And because it wasn't spoken about or asked, I felt very alone in that. But everything else, I was fine. Really? Which is so, because I feel like the medical professionals they know what they're doing. There's a reason why they do the things that they do. And yes, treatment is the worst thing. The worst thing. I would never wish anyone to go through chemotherapy, whether it's for cancer or anything else. Like, it's the worst thing you could possibly go through, and it quite literally kills you to make you better. And yes, that sucked, but everyone was there for me for that. No one really thought about the collateral that comes after. But yeah.
I think too, like, I assume that people were, so focused on you surviving that the egg freezing and fertility seems like a minor issue. But
well, even Jeremy, for example, who wants a big family, he was like, there's absolutely no chance we're risking that. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, like, how are you so okay with that?
Yeah. I was like, come on, like, might as well. And like now, knowing how well I took to treatment, I wish I did it. Like,
really?
100%. I wish I gave myself those 2 weeks, but I can't take that back, and I will never be able to take that back. That's gone forever.
I'm sorry, that really sucks.
It does really suck, but I'm coming to terms with it, which is it's been 2.5 years and I'm still just coming to terms with it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And thank goodness you have your beautiful
I know,
little girl.
and that's what I have to be sensitive about. And well, I don't have to be, but I choose to be sensitive about, because I know how easy I got her, and I know so many people don't even have the chance to have that one.
Yeah, but it's all relative.
It is. I know. But like, I still have to like be grateful that I have her. Just when I think about what you went through, it's so intense as an individual, let alone as a young mum. Yeah.
How did it feel, knowing that you have this little person? Like, do you think that it changed the way that you went through treatment and the way that you...
Yeah. So if you asked me when I was going through it, I would have said like how hard it was and like how much I wish I was just there for her. And like, obviously I was robbed of my first year of motherhood, essentially. But that was another thing I can never get back. Like, they made me stop breastfeeding. I got told I had cancer the next day. I was in the surgeon's office and he said, start weaning tonight. And I was like, sorry. Like, she's 3 months old. Like, you're just dropping all these things on me that I don't want to do.
And you just had no choice.
You just get on with it. Like, so breastfeeding was taken from me, which is something that I would love to be able to do again. Maybe potentially one day. It would never be with my own child. I'd have to lactate and do all the things, but I would love to be able to do that again. But yeah, I wish that I could have been a mum for the first year, but at the same time, I'm so glad that she now has 4 or 5 other women in her life that until not very long ago, she would call mum.
Really?
Like, yeah, she didn't know the difference. And like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. And like, I know that some people are single parents by choice and they do have all of their friends that are mums. They have a parenting figure in their life. And yeah, like, that's really cool. So I guess while I was going through it, I was like, I just want to be home. Like, she needs her mum, blah, blah, blah. And like, it wasn't until I'd woken up after my surgery that I realized that she didn't really need me. And this was 6 months in, which broke me. And it's like, she came into the hospital sneakily. It was COVID. No one was allowed in the hospital under 16 because they hadn't had their jabs or whatever. And she needed a bottle and she didn't come to me for it. And I was like, huh? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm right here. And she's like, Nama, which is my mum. Yeah. And I was like, oh, other people can parent you. Like, and like, I know that it takes a village regardless of whether you're going through something. But yeah, that was like, choke me sort of thing. Like, it was the hardest thing.
Yeah, that does sound really hard. It almost sounds like those things that were happening around your treatment and around your diagnosis that were harder. Yeah,
like, well, the treatment's like, you have to do it. You don't choose to do that. No one's choosing to go through chemotherapy. No one's choosing to be treated for cancer. You're quite literally having to do that. You're waking up and choosing to be alive. Yeah. Essentially. Like, that is quite literally what I had to do every day was I had to choose to be out of bed and living, not just rotting away and choosing the opposite, virtually. So that was the easiest part. Yeah. Like, mentally, specifically, that was the easiest part. But that was the thing that I was being called brave for, and that was the thing that I was being told I was so strong for doing. And I was like, I'm not being strong. Like,
you're just doing what you have to do.
You don't get a choice. Yeah. There is no choice. I was being brave by sharing. Yes, I was being brave by still choosing to be a parent and being a good partner and doing all the things that I would have been doing anyway. That was me being brave and strong, because they were the things I didn't have to do. They were the things that people would have given me leadway for not choosing, but I guess being selfish and choosing me in that time, but they were the things that I was being strong for.
Yeah.
Which no one really gets, I guess. And I think that's why I'm so close with like the two girls that I'm talking with every day, is because they get it. I don't have to explain myself, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
You definitely need that.
Yeah. I think everyone needs that regardless of what they're going through. They need the 2 or 3 people that get it.
Yeah. People can be empathetic, but unless they've been through the same thing, it's, there's so much that we don't understand.
Which is,
Yeah. So you had your treatment and it was successful?
It was really, like, unbelievably, everyone around me was so shocked.
Really?
Which I guess when you wake up from a surgery, when they've removed it and they're so shocked that like it's gone so well, I was like, oh,
this is amazing.
Like I did it.
Yeah.
They would never put me in remission because of the advanced nature of my tumor after they like did the biopsies and whatever they did on it, all the biology stuff.
Yeah.
Until I'd been clear for a year, I believe it was, or 3 more scans. So almost a year. I think it's like 10 months.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's fine. I had my next scan 3 months later, had my stoma reversed. Like, I was just living. I was just being a mum, which was so cool. Like, I booked a trip to Hawaii. Like, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to have a small child dependent on you and, like, be able to be a wife, be a partner, like, do all the things that I thought my life would look like.
Yeah.
And, like, it was a really distant memory really quickly, even though it was only months prior.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really easy for me to turn it around to be, this has happened. My life's very different now. I've got a whole new ball of like perspective and like all of these things like that I'd never had before. I took so many things for granted, like my privilege of being able to travel prior or like even have a roof over my head. Like I took so many things for granted and I no longer did that, which was really cool. So I was like, oh, like silver lining type thing. Like, yes, it was the worst year of my life, but like silver lining is that I got all these other things out of it.
That's amazing that you
cool
that you took it that way. I don't think everybody does.
No, but I think a lot of people that do get a diagnosis also don't want to get better because of how hard it is. And a lot of people that are diagnosed are a lot older than me. And I know that it doesn't discriminate. And I'm living proof that it doesn't discriminate in age and whatnot. But they're either older than me or they don't have anyone that depends on them, or they just don't have a purpose to get through it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a purpose to get through it, I can see why you choose not to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So how long was it then that you were cancer-free?
3 months.
Really? Wait, so
no, essentially I was never, but like I thought that I was cancer free from September to December.
And then what happened?
I was home, Port Lincoln for Christmas. I thought I had COVID because I had all the symptoms of COVID and naively thought that it couldn't be cancer. Well, I didn't have any spots in my lungs. I didn't have any spots tracking in that direction initially. So I was like, well, it was in my bowel. Like, I don't have any pain there. I don't have any infrequencies. Like, it couldn't be. But my nurse in my local regional town happened, and I didn't have much of a following at this point. I hadn't shared enough yet, and I probably should have because I know how far it can reach. But she was following me and was like, we need to take this a little bit more seriously. Like, yes, you can have your concoction of all the good stuff being immunocompromised, but I also want to give you a CT scan. I was like, oh, whatever. Emergency room CT scan, because that's all there is in regional towns. I'm like, I don't like emergency rooms very much, which you could probably imagine why. But I just went up there by myself because obviously I had a small child and you don't want a small child in emergency, and went up there, had my scan. They came back and they're like, oh, there's this was a doctor, mind you, like that had never met me. So she had no idea what was going on at all. Like had never met me, didn't know anything about me, was just reading the results of a CT. So like I have to give her slack there because when she comes in with the scan results, she's like, oh, there's a large mass in your chest cavity. And I was like, what? And she's like, we think it's pneumonia. I was like, oh girl, you need to drop that first because you cannot be coming in and telling me that I have a large chest cavity after like everything. She's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And then
why are you panicking?
Another nurse was like, oh, so she's got bowel cancer. And they were like, oh, I was like, did you not read my notes? And she's like, no, I just got given this thing to come and tell you. Like, I've just read a photo. I was like, oh my gosh. I was so stressed out. And I was like, oh, pneumonia, that's fine. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Which like everyone was like, you poor girl, like pneumonia at Christmas. I'm like,
You're like, it's no big deal,
I'm like,
guys.
do you know what else this could be?
Yeah.
Anyway, they ended up sending it off, obviously off to all my specialists. And because I did message as soon as she said that, I messaged my surgeon's assistant and was like, it's fucking back. And she was like, Kelly, please, like, you had no spots in your lungs. The size that they've just sent through is huge. Like, it was huge. It was like a softball in my chest. And they're like, they can't possibly be. Like, that's 3 months growth. That's ridiculous. And if it is, like, good luck sort of thing. Because that's a very aggressive form of cancer if it's that big already. And I was like, sick, can't wait for Christmas sort of thing. Probably definitely denial again, and was just like, no, it's just pneumonia, I'll get through it. And within a week after taking the antibiotics, I felt better. So I was like, oh, it was just pneumonia.
Yeah.
I went and had a bronchoscopy. Before going in, I was like, now you clearly know why I'm here. Like, I obviously didn't have that experience in Port Lincoln, but I was like, you know why I'm here. Like, don't beat around the bush. When I wake up, just tell me what it is. Like, I don't need to be bard-assed around. Like, I just don't need it. Like, I need simple.
Honesty.
Yeah, I just need the simple truth.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, he was like, I found what I thought was a mucus plug in your lung, which would essentially cause the lung to collapse, which it had. And when he went to remove the mucus plug, it bled. So it was cancer. I was like, again, in the room by myself, I was like, okay, like, sick. Like, I was like, what does this mean? And he's like, I looked under a scope. It looks like it's pretty localized. Like, it looks like it's just in the lung, which is obviously ideal. He goes, I almost removed it there and then, but then got scared that if it had spread, given my previous diagnosis, that I would have to then wait 6 weeks for treatment because I just had the surgery if they remove it. I was like, oh, okay, so what's next sort of thing? And went to see a lung doctor who I'd never met before. Poor man. I walked in to see the lung doctor. I was there for 20 seconds, literally 20 seconds, the most expensive 20 seconds of my life. And he just told me that it was, like, he didn't even tell me. He turned the screen around and went to start talking. I got up and left because I saw it everywhere. It was in my pelvis. It was in my stomach. It was all around my lung. Had tracked a little bit to my left lung, but it was mostly in my right lung. Like, it was just everywhere. And I'd seen a oncologist previously before my scope, and he was like, if it's just in your lung, we'll remove it. If it's in your lung and the lymph nodes around there, we'll do chemo and remove it. If it's anywhere past the lymph nodes surrounding the primary tumor, we do palliative care. So that was obviously when I saw the screen turn around, I was like, oh, well, I know what that means. Got up and walked out, and Jeremy's like, well, why are you so angry at the doctor? Like, he didn't do anything. I was like, this is why I need to take you to more appointments, because he had no idea what that meant. And that was the first time so when I explained to him what my options were and what the option I thought it was, that was the first time that he saw his life without me, which is so scary. Sorry. Which is so scary for him.
Do we have tissues? Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's scary for him because he obviously had a 1-year-old at home that he knew he couldn't do by himself. Yeah. So it took him 2 hours to process that at his friend's house while I sat in the car and waited for him. But yeah, I don't really cry about it often, but it is pretty scary.
It's a lot. And I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not meant to be the one crying.
No, you're okay.
Oh. It's not fair.
No. So yeah, that was the first time that he saw his life without me, which is obviously huge, but at the same time, while he was inside coming to terms with it, I was already on the phone and had a new oncologist, which, like, yes, okay, all oncologists have the same end goal, and that is to obviously get the best result for their patient. But I felt that as a 26-year-old now, at that stage I was 26 now, I wasn't getting the best options.
Yeah.
Knowing how well I did the first time, why that wasn't now an option again. And I guess I was allergic to one of the strands in the chemotherapy that I was getting the first time and had like deathly experiences each time. But I didn't know, obviously it was just chemo, like that gives you deathly experiences anyway.
Yeah.
So we thought it was just that, but it wasn't until I found a new oncologist that we found out that I was allergic to that strand, and we went on a new chemo regime. But it also I was given the option, I either need to preserve the chances of my fertility being an option again, or my hair, which sounds so ridiculous, but it was the hardest decision ever, was choosing to lose my hair. Like, the spiral that I went on to think about, like, weigh up those options, only because I knew that my options were very limited with fertility already. Like, obviously I wanted to give myself the best chance to give Sophia a sibling. So I chose the option to lose my hair. I went on another 6-month journey of chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Surgery was no longer an option because of obviously how many spots there were. Like, they can't go in and remove my entire abdominal, like,
everything
cavity. I did all the things again and ended up being pretty in a pretty good spot. Like, I tried a whole heap of different alternate treatments as well, which worked really well. Like, most oncologists won't suggest them, but he was like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, which is incredible. I didn't get many side effects. Like, I quite literally got married and went to an Ed Sheeran concert while in active treatment. Like,
that's amazing.
You don't hear of that with chemo. Like, it's not a thing to have like big life events.
And my God, you looked so beautiful on your wedding day.
Thank you. I still had my hair, which is a big part of why I think I enjoy my photos.
Yeah.
So I actually, we cancelled our wedding. When I found out I was losing my hair, I was like, there's no chance I'm getting married. It was meant to be in October that year. There's no way I'm getting married without my own hair. And Jeremy's like, no worries. Like, we'll just cancel the wedding. Like, we'll just go to the courthouse and elope. Anyway, people heard wind of that, and we ended up having within 3 weeks, like, a little elopement in a nice dress, and like our bridal party were there, and like we got to do it in a way, obviously that wasn't planned, but in a way that was really special. So it's still like, it's not a tainted memory.
That's so good.
Which is nice. But yeah, by the end of the year I was out of it. I was stable. My levels, so for context, anything under 5 is quite good, normal. Anything under 2 is like incredible, and I was sitting at a 1.9 for my tumor levels. So yeah, that obviously was like incredible until just recently, which it spiked again, and I was like, it wasn't very high, it was still below 5, which obviously was normal. And I've got a lot of scar tissue, and a lot of and stress causes that scar tissue to inflame as well, which I've been having a bit of a stressful time in the end of the year, like it is for most people. And yeah, I went for a blood test, and it had spiked only to 2.8, which obviously doesn't have much meaning to many people, but to me, I was like, whoa, because my bloods are quite reactive. I was like, that's a little bit stressful. Like, could be lots of things, but I was finally not a hypocrite and listened to myself and trusted my gut, and went and got a scan. And I wish I didn't get a scan, because it had shown 2 millimeters of growth, which is nothing compared to what I had relapsed with before, but it was growth nonetheless.
Yeah.
So then it means that I'm now again on active chemotherapy, which...
And that's only really recent.
Yeah, like my second one is tomorrow. Yeah. But this time, based again with a fertility versus hair question, I chose my hair.
You chose your hair? Well,
I've just got it back. I need my hair. I don't want to lose it again. And he was like, no worries. He's like, but basically my fertility didn't come back at all in those 12 months. So there was no point trying to preserve something that was never worth preserving virtually. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, well, I'd rather have at least my appearance. And I think my appearance with my hair, and like, obviously I look quite well, helps me as well, because I get through each day without people, especially when I'm not hooked up to the chemo, because I do have my chemo attached to me for 48 hours a fortnight. When I'm not, you don't know that I'm not well, and people don't question me, people don't bring it up, so I don't have to talk about it all the time.
That makes sense.
Like, I get to choose when I open up and talk about it, which is actually really helpful.
Yeah. And you do an amazing job of that.
I try really hard.
It's honestly, like, I did tell you in a message, but I I needed to book in a colonoscopy. I had a colonoscopy in 2022 and it showed I had, I think, 16 polyps, which for my age was strange.
Yeah.
And so my doctor said you're going to need yearly checkups unless it gets to a point where there's a lot less. Anyway, it's one of those things that I was like, oh, like.
Yeah, well, it is. It's so easy to put off, especially when
traveling. And so I was like, I'll do it when I think of it.
Yeah. And also colonoscopies aren't fun.
So yucky.
So like the
actual thing's fine. Like it's a little nap.
Exactly.
But like the prep is foul.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I had a sip of it, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. I don't know why everyone complains, but like 200 mils in, I'm like, oh, this sucks. But anyway,
you had 2 more liters as well. Like,
yeah, it's hard work. But yeah, seeing your posts and your advocacy for everything, I was like, oh my God, like get it together, Olivia. Literally booked it in after seeing one of your posts. And I have polyposis, which is, it's fine. It just means that I need yearly colonoscopies. But I'm so grateful to you for that because I feel like it's one of those things that I would have kept pushing back.
And polyps, obviously we know that's how cancer starts, is in a polyp. So yeah.
Exactly. You doing all of your advocacy work and, showing up as you do online and on your podcast, it does take a lot of guts. And you seem to be very positive and optimistic and it's very inspiring. How do you do it?
I think, again, this is where I'm brave and strong. This is the part that I have to choose to do. And I think it has obviously become easier. It's been doing it for a couple of years now. And as I know that I'm quite, like my cancer's quite, the chemo works. So like I know that treatment works for me. So I don't see anything bad happening anytime soon, if that makes sense. Like I don't live with the fear of mortality. Like I just don't. So I think that makes it easier, and being able to speak about it and knowing how many lives I'm saving.
You're literally saving, yeah.
Like through simple conversations. No, they're not simple in terms of like I'm quite literally talking about something I'm living with, which normally advocates are someone talking about maybe a relative that's probably already passed, or that's the reason why they now want to talk about it, or something similar to that scenario,
or a survivor,
or like someone that's completely out of it, not going through active treatment. It's, I think, more powerful, and I think the impact that I'm able to have positively also impacts my own life positively. Like knowing that I am quite literally hope. Me just walking through the streets is hope for so many other people, like millions of people, is so good.
Yeah.
Like it is a purpose. Like, yes, originally my purpose was my child and my family, but now I have so many people that are so invested, and even if they just hear of something for a couple of moments on a podcast or radio show, or like they don't even know who I am, but they hear a snippet of what I've been through, and that then initiates them to trust their own gut or listen to their intuition or whatever it may be. Like that's 2 seconds that I've spoken that saved someone's life. Like that is, I don't give myself credit for it enough, but it's incredible.
Yeah, it's
which
amazing.
Is so helpful. I also kind of speak, I guess, now that I've been doing it for so long, as if I'm speaking about someone else. Like I don't really speak about my experiences and put myself in that position. Like I speak about it as if it was, it was 2 years ago or a year ago or even yesterday. Like that was yesterday, Kelly. Now I'm today, Kelly. So unless I was sat here hooked up to my chemo, I wouldn't really be speaking about me now, because each day is, I'm lucky to wake up each day. Like realistically, I'm living on borrowed time. So I just make the most of it.
It's amazing.
I try really hard.
You are amazing. I read about your living list.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So everyone has a bucket list. Like, and if you don't, you're lying. I didn't like calling it a bucket list because it was no longer an option to tick those things off. Like I felt like, wow, I'm now alive. It is a living list and I need to live with intent to tick these things off. So each year I make sure I tick off at least 2 things from my living list, whether it be going to the farm to see my family, or more often, obviously that's a big priority now to me, or if it's going to Africa on a safari. Like, they are things on my living list that I need to tick off, and I will get down the list and tick them all off. I believe so.
I believe so too. How long is your list?
Yeah, no, long.
It's long. That's good.
We're going to have to be around till we're 80 to tick it off, but we'll get through it.
What is something on that list for this year that you want to tick off?
This year is to get one of my best friends married, which is happening in November, which is fantastic. So that's one thing that I'm ticking off.
Mm-hmm.
I really also want to get to Japan. I want to go skiing in Japan.
Amazing.
So whether that happens or not, I don't know, but
Fingers crossed.
it will probably be December, because that's the only time that I get off. That's the other thing with, obviously, my life is so dependent on my husband's career, because that's what we have to do. We have to sacrifice for the short time that he's in it. So yeah, we don't get very much time to be able to do the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does make it hard.
But yeah, that's my 2 goals for this year. So hopefully.
Amazing. And I read that one was to take Sophia to Disneyland.
Yeah. So I want to take Sophia to Disneyland before she turns 5 and is at school.
Well, then maybe when you go to Japan to ski, you go to
That's
Tokyo,
the
go to Disneyland. Yeah.
That's the idea.
Perfect.
Yeah, Jeremy's not sold, because apparently tall people over there are,
Yeah, you get a lot of attention.
Well, that, and also like trying to fit through door frames and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true as well.
I wouldn't want to duck through every door frame, but I'm like, mate, this
You'll
is
be
your
okay.
turn to sacrifice.
You'll be all right. Just bend over for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the goal.
Now, knowing what you know and what you've learnt in the last few years with everything you've been through, what are some things that you wish people knew about bowel cancer, or that you wish you knew when you got that first diagnosis?
Well, I just wish, I know now that it's talked about a lot wider, and I think that in the last 3 years I hear about it all the time, and I don't know whether it's because I'm obviously in, not the industry, but I'm in and around the advocacy of
people
it
who
all
are talking
the time.
about it, yeah.
But I see it, and I see people talking about the harder conversations to have, and I see it everywhere now. And I think, without putting myself at the start of the domino effect, I feel like I have definitely started conversations, and it's helping other people talk about it as well, which is really cool. So I guess I'm glad that people have that now. They have the resources that I didn't have, and it is talked about more, and people like seeing it more, and which sucks. Obviously, it sucks that people are going through it now, but it's there regardless. Like, at least they're getting it earlier than what they would have if I wasn't talking about it. But I just think people need to know that it doesn't discriminate. It's not an old person's disease. It's quite literally the leading cancer killer in our age group, like 25 to 34.
25 to 34,
Yeah, which is like
terrifying.
Crazy, because like you hear of melanoma, you hear of breast cancer, you hear of testicular cancer, you hear of all the sexy diseases, and that's because laying in the sun and getting a tan is sexy, having breasts is sexy, having a penis is sexy, shitting is not, talking about poo is not, and you don't hear about it. And I'm just glad that that's now a conversation that more people are having. Yeah
Symptoms?
Yeah, so the thing is, the hardest part is, like, I've lived experience. I'm a living proof that it's so easy to pass off the symptoms, because unexplained weight loss as a 20-something-year-old woman, literally fluctuations each month. And men probably the same. Obviously, I can't talk on experience for men, but unexplained tiredness, like fatigue, like, so many reasons as to why you're tired, like, especially if you're a new mum. Like, you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
But also not if you're a new mum. Like, there's so many reasons of why you could be tired. Like, abdominal pains, again, being a woman, just being a woman. Blood in your stool, obviously a little bit different, but also if you're not frequent, which is another symptom, generally, if you are more frequent than often, like than normal, like if you're going more often than normal, you're wiping a lot, there's often chances of wiping too much and having blood. But obviously blood in your stool, and it can be microscopic, so you can't even see it sometimes, is a big red flag, quite literally. But it's not something that many people are comfortable sharing, especially not even with a doctor, which is really sad. And like, but I get it. But also, if you see blood in your stool, and especially now that you've heard all of the conversation around it, it's pretty scary. And you don't want to bring that up with anyone, especially knowing what it could possibly be. So yeah, the symptoms, obviously, while you can pass them off, some of them that can't be passed off, such as blood, is just something you don't want to bring up because you know how morbid it can be.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
What would your tips be then to someone? I feel like it's a tricky thing because you don't want to just freak people out and, you know, make people think that any tummy symptom that they're having is something sinister.
Yeah, like I don't want to be a hypochondriac, but like I feel like you know if you've got a sore stomach because you need to go to the toilet. You know if you've got a sore stomach because you've eaten something bad. Like I feel like if it's ongoing for more than 4 weeks or even shorter sometimes, then something's probably not right. And even if it is fine, just get it checked. Like why not? Like why not go have that conversation? Yes, okay, it's an uncomfortable conversation to have. Yes, it can be a scary outcome. But 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be. Yeah. And if it's caught early enough, it's going to be the easiest. When I got diagnosed, it's the easiest cancer to deal with. It's going to be the easiest, though, to be treated. Yeah. You can quite literally just have it removed. If it's a polyp, if it's anything to do with your bowels, you can just remove it in seconds. You're asleep. Like, yes, the prep sucks. Like, we all know it sucks. And I know people that choose not to have colonoscopies because they don't want to have the prep. But it's 24 hours of your life.
Literally save your life, yeah.
It's 24 hours of your life.
Yeah.
Like, trust your own gut. Save your own life.
Yeah.
Such good advice. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. If you could go back to Kellie pre-diagnosis, maybe even pre-Sophia, what advice would you give her?
Don't take things for granted, I would say. Like, live in the moment. And I know that's cliche, but like, be the person you want to be, not the person that you think people want you to be.
Yeah.
Which I know makes a lot of sense, but like I don't know how to elaborate on that. But
no,
yeah,
I don't think you need to.
Be the person you want to be perceived as, not the person that others want you to be. Yeah. Yeah. Which I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, definitely.
Like imposter syndrome is huge. I've got it. I live with it every day, but I feel like a lot of people do, but
yeah. Oh, same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same. So much.
Like even like for example, my husband's an elite athlete, but he still has imposter syndrome on the field that like he's quite literally playing for the team, but he still doesn't feel like he deserves to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone has it. It's crazy.
It is.
It's crazy. We all need to be a little kinder to ourselves.
Definitely. That's really good advice. I would love to do a little something called oranges and lemons. Lemons we'll probably start with a lemon, something that's like a little bit negative. It can be really trivial, something that's happened today or over the past couple of days, and then your orange is your highlight.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that lemon, they're meant to be from either today or previous, but my lemon is that I've got chemo tomorrow. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
That's
and I think
lemon.
Yeah, that's my sour point of every fortnight. Which I think that self-explanatory. But my orange is that I got to wake up this morning with my goddaughter and she was so happy and asked me to play Barbies. Like, when's the last time you got asked to play Barbies? Yeah, I have a 2-year-old daughter and I don't even get asked to play Barbies. I was so excited.
That's so like, cute.
Yes, Ayla, we can play Barbies.
I love that.
Shotgunning this one.
I feel like kids are so good at just keeping you in the present moment and not thinking too much about everything else that's going on.
It's so good. They're so innocent and it's the best thing ever. I wish they could be innocent forever.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I can't give a lemon today.
No,
I don't have one, and also I can't, like, you have chemo tomorrow. Yeah. So like any lemon that I have is just not gonna be.
That's not true. Everything's relevant.
But my orange is my niece. So similarly, just speaking to her in the morning just makes me so happy,
isn't it?
Yeah. And they just like get excited about the simple things, which I think makes you just more positive.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, the best thing, like even the peanut butter toast, I'm like, I want to have a piece too.
For Winnie, it's Vegemite or Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Yeah. So literally cute. She puts her finger in it and eats it like that. It's a lot.
She was cute until I heard that part.
She's still cute. Come on. Where can our listeners find you? I'm sure people will want to consume more from you.
Well, I'm on the usual Instagram and TikTok, just Kellie Finlayson _, but I'm also on podcast, which is Shit Talkers, and we're quite literally the best people that could possibly talk shit. So we have lived experience to be able to do so. And no, it's not
So
all
it's you and...
So Geordie, she's got Crohn's, first person to ever get a stem cell transplant in Australia for Crohn's.
Wow.
Just previously 7 months ago, which is like...
She's amazing.
The fact that she's... Yeah, anyway, she's incredible. And then Sophie, who's a survivor of bowel cancer, stage 3 bowel cancer, yeah. So we're very qualified to talk about shit, but we don't just talk about physical stools.
Not just poo.
Yeah, lots of people have shit as well.
All sorts of shit.
Yeah, that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. I've absolutely loved talking to you
Thanks
today,
for having
Kellie.
me.
Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms, and don't forget you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.